Hi, today I'm going to check out 6 classic distortion pedals. We're going to apply it on a 1965 Bassman. That was actually the Bassman that Kurt Cobain used to record tracks, for instance, In Bloom on the Nevermind album. The purpose is to compare the pedals and see how they compare to other factors in the sound chain. I'm going to try to aim for the guitar sound of the track In Bloom. Now this sound has already been recreated perfectly by Aaron Rash at his YouTube channel. So my contribution is more to put it into the context of the signal chain and see how it compares to using other stuff and how it compares to other factors in the sound chain. You can find the isolated tracks of Kurt's guitars on In Bloom in the video description. You can clearly hear that it is 2 guitars, panned left and right. To the left is most likely the Mesa Boogie studio preamp and the Crown power amp through a Marshall 4x12. And that one most likely had G12 T75s as shown by Aaron Rash at his channel. The other channel, the right-hand channel, is most likely the Bassman, 1965 Bassman, Butch's Bassman actually, which was modded for more treble and slightly different voicing. That one could either have been played through a Marshall 4x12 or through a Fender 2x12. We will come back to later to that, why that is. There's actually great community connected to Nirvana tone. You can see a bunch of references here. So everything I say today has a reference fairly close to the recording crew of the recording of Nevermind. The rig I'm playing today is a 1965 Fender Bassman, but mine is stock, so it's a bit bassier and rounder than the one that Kurt most likely played. I'm playing it through a 1984 Marshall 4x12, and it has the earliest version of G12 T75, so they're probably not scooped enough to perfectly nail the sound. I think Aaron Rash had a 1987 or something like that, G12 T75 in his video. So the new ones, the new G12 T75 are way too fizzy and too scooped. And the oldest one is too greenback-like, basically too MIDI, the one that I play with the Went here. So before we start comparing these 6 pedals on this rig, we're going to listen to one track that I recorded of the beginning of the In Bloom riff. Then I add EQ on it to make it match Kurt's track closer. And then in the third instance here that we're going to see, it's going to be 3 instances, I'm adding EQ matching to a left, to instance at the left and an instance at the right. And I try to EQ match it to the Mesa part and then to the Bassman part. Let's check that out first. So there's quite a difference between the raw recording that I did and the EQ match ones. Now, Butch Vig, the producer, said in an interview that he wanted to keep everything very basic. So not much effects, not much, I assume, EQ either. So the difference between my recording here and the EQ match track, the one that matches how Kurt actually sounded on that track, is either EQ and post-processing, or it is the things in the sound chain that we're going to look at in a minute here. And we can also note that the third instance here, with the stereo track, it was really heavily post-processed by me. So it sounded, it really gives the sense of the In Bloom sound, but it sounds kind of bad also because it's so heavily processed. So instead of this post-processing, you need to go look further in the chain, what can be done differently to come closer. And we're going to discuss that soon here. Now, as most of you probably know, Kurt most likely used a DS1 Boss distortion pedal on In Bloom and most of the rest of Nevermind. We're going to use that pedal here along with 5 others and apply it on this Bassman rig and see how they compare. Are there other pedals that can get you into the ballpark here as well? This is going to be a quick run through of the pedals. You can see I'm tweaking the tone knob for some of the pedals where it's relevant. Well, there are lots of different cool sounds here. I think mainly the boss did the Nirvana thing. Maybe the 1 or 2 settings on the Marshall Guv'nor as well came pretty close. Another thing that I noted here is kind of unexpected that the JHS Morning Glory is the most aggressive one. It's kind of a versatile pedal, that one. It of course didn't sound like Nevermind, but really cool. Now we're going to compare the different mics here. You know, Butch Vig used 4 different mics on the Marshall cab, as I've read in the material here. One SM57, one 421, one 414, and one U87. And then Kurt could choose which one he liked of those, and that was chosen for the album. I'm using an SM57 421, and then I'm only using a M160 also, and we're going to compare these 3 now, so you can see for each pedal here a quick run through and see how different it is. I'm trying to use the exact same recording spot, but they're on different speakers. You know, the position of the speaker is also hugely influential. So here we try to capture the difference of the mics. Let's check it out. So as you could hear here, the mic choice is as influential or more influential than the tone knob of the distortion pedal, provided that you are careful when you place the mic. So the tone knob is only called the tone because that's the closest to a description. It's basically, you know, it's basically one tone shaper. So if you listen to Kurt's tone and you try to tweak your pedal and say, his is brighter than mine, so I have to, you know, turn up the tone. That may not be the case. It may be you may need to turn down the tone, and then put your mic at the spot where it is brighter, or choose another mic and so on. So the entire chain is connected here, but most of you knew that, I guess, but I think it's cool to see it like this. And the next thing here is, of course, where you put the mic. It differs a lot too. It would be interesting to see what the setup. I really liked Aaron Rash's video about In Bloom. It would be interesting to see where he put the mic. Was it an angle? What kind of mic was it? Did he use any EQ and so on? Because now it's probably the 8th time I'm saying it, but I was blown away by the tone he got. Now let's quickly go through the signal chain here. I'm going to comment all parts you can see in the picture here. You know, guitars, pedals, amp, cab, speakers, mics, and post-processing. So let's begin with the guitars. I think Kurt used the Mustang in the video. So let's assume he used that on the track as well. Then he would have used a single coil guitar. Although the guitars are so heavily distorted, it's going to make a huge difference between the SG I'm using and that one. But he could have used one of the humbucker guitars as well. I think it's disputed whether the Mustang had a humbucker before or after Nevermind. But the channel, I think it was Nirvana Guitars, also a great channel, said that that humbucker didn't come into, and now I'm just trying to recollect here, didn't come into the guitars before, you know, it was only after Nevermind. So, in some of these references, it was also said that Butch noted that the guitar sound was so distorted that, you know, the initial sound wasn't that relevant. But I don't know. So all those things is good to know if you want to try to recreate this stuff. Then when it comes to the pedals, yeah, Distortion 1, of course. And the settings is basically like we have it there, you know, at everything on full, but tone that is on 10, 11 o'clock or something like that. Then in the isolated track here that I'm posting with Kurt's original guitars, you can hear that there is a delay on the left-hand channel, which is most likely the Mesa Boogie. And then you can, and this is very nerdy, was it applied on the amp when Kurt played, and then as a stomp box pedal, or was it in post? I don't know. But these things matter too, of course. Then you have the amp. Well, in all of these great references, I've read that first, Dave Friedman actually provided a 1963 Bassman half stack, but that one wasn't used. But that half stack had a 2x12 also with, in the references, they say it was Jensen's in it. We will come back to those speakers. So I mean, maybe they used those, because we know they didn't use that amp, at least not to the material I have here. They instead used Butch on his personal 1965 Fender Bassman, a blackface Bassman. The other one is brown face or a blonde. That one was modded. They had removed some or changed some capacitors to have less bass. You know, the difference between super bass and super lead, basically, I guess. And then it was modded from penthode to triode. I don't know if that was to reduce volume or to shape tone, but it does indeed shape tone. And of course, in the left-hand channel, Kurt plays the Mesa and Crowned power amp. In the reference material that I've read here, and that also involves an interview, actually. I watched Rick Beato's great interview with Butch, and so that's also where I've gotten stuff from here. He's a great interviewer, Rick. Very nice interviews. So the cabs Kurt used, it's known that it was Marshall cabs, but it could have been a bunch of different speakers. There are references for greenbacks, either 90s reissues or 80s reissues, or original vintage greenbacks. Also G12 T75 and vintage 30. But when it comes to In Bloom, I think Aaron Rash has shown clearly that that must have been G12 T75 if it was indeed the Marshall cab. Because that growly sound can also be gotten from a Fender 2x12. You know, the bottom cab to the rig that Dave Friedman allegedly, according to the material here, supplied, has Jensen's, and they also have that growly sound. In the Bleach sessions, also according to the material here, Kurt said to Butch that he wanted to sound like Black Sabbath. And actually, you know, that Goodman Laney-esque sound that Tony Iommi had in the mid-70s, you really get that from early G12 T75 speakers, but also from Jensen's. So it could have been that. Maybe they played Butch's 1965 Bassman through the blonde 1963 2x12 with Jensen's in it. But most likely, since Aaron has shown how close he gets with the Marshall, most likely it's that is the answer for the Bassman part. Now, then the speakers, I think we've covered that also here. Then the mics, well, you saw the difference when I showed you my mics. So Kurt could choose between these 4 mics here. Then, of course, was it close mic'd? Was it all the way up to the grill? I think it was. I got better results that way than not, though. And also in the material here, in these references that I have, it says, and that you have also there in the video description, so I'm not making it up. It says that Kurt's amp was in a smaller space, an isolated space. So then you know, if it's, you only back off with the mics if you have a good big room, otherwise you're going to be really close. So most likely close mic, but we don't know. Was it where on the cone did they put the mics? Did they tilt them and so on? Don't know that, and that makes a huge difference. In these interviews that I have in the material, also Butch said that he really didn't want to use room mics. He used that for Dave Grohl's drums, but he only used room mics and then maybe some post processing. He wanted to keep that to a minimum also, and maybe some reverb post reverb instead on the guitars, and same thing for Chris bass. Then we have the post-pressing. Yeah, for the isolated track of Kurt's guitar on In Bloom, you can hear that there is an enormous amount of compression on it. So I don't know. In the material here, it said that they used the old Teletronics, I think it's called, Universal Audio today, LA2A compressor that was used on the vocals. Maybe they used that on the guitars as well. And so quite heavy compression, as I think. And then it was the Neve 8028 console they used. So most likely Neve 1073 or 1081 or 1084 preamps. There you can, one of these, but the original then. Here you can add an enormous amount of bass and it still sounds natural. So that may be a part of the tone as well. So it shouldn't be disregarded. Now the most important factor in the achieving a Nirvana tone is of course how you play the guitar. I'm a typical 70s and 80s hard rock player, and that is what Kurt and Nirvana tried to avoid. And I'm a Marshall guy, and that's also what I tried to avoid. So to nail the tone, you really have to look into how we played, of course. But the other thing is I really want to get the one speaker from each year in the 80s, the G12 T75, and compare those. Because I want to recreate the chain that has the least post-processing involved, because that's what Butch said. It was minimal post-processing. All right. That was a lot of talking. I hope to hear what you think in the comments now. See you next time. Cheers.